Yes, we are live. Welcome, everyone. It has been a long time that we've done a live session, but we wanted to take this opportunity to, share some updates and knowledge with you. There's a lot of things going on in Microsoft landscape, and we wanted to use this session to share those new developments with you. Flores, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. All good here. Yeah, looking forward to this. Hope this is very valuable to people, and
Yeah.
we'd love to see any response you have to the session that we have planned for you today.
Great, looking forward. Well, we have prepared an agenda and some topics where Flores and I are going to zoom in on the developments. So let's start off and start with the first topic. We've prepared an agenda with 10 items, and let's start off with the first one. Optimization is the new negotiation. It's a one-liner we discussed actually a few months ago because we've seen that the development in Microsoft licensing land is developing very rapidly. Things are changing. So negotiations are changing and the cloud consumption world is changing. And we wanted to zoom in on this topic today because a lot of clients are adopting the Microsoft cloud. We see a current development that, yeah, Microsoft is changing their approach in the negotiation. They are more and more choosing a different approach when it comes to negotiation, where a few years ago it was still possible to negotiate high discounts, everything you could wish for when it comes to commercial conditions. Now the landscape is changing, and we wanted to share this with you because you need to know this when you are negotiation you are in your negotiation with Microsoft. So, Flores, what's your opinion on that? What have you seen lately in the negotiations and in this specific topic? Optimization is the new negotiation. What's your opinion on this matter?
Feel very strongly about this because when we set out on our life journey 3 years ago, I remember that we had some initial discussions on where do we want to put our focus. Obviously, coming from Microsoft as a licensing expert or commercial executive, we knew what the options were for Microsoft customers in regards to negotiations. But we quickly realized that a good negotiation can only start by an excellent preparation. Um, and what we quickly learned was that there's a lot of room for optimization before going into the contracting motion. So, looking at Azure consumption, looking at usage of M365, looking at the data centers that a customer has, we quickly found that there was a lot of optimization potential there, but the mindset I think wasn't there yet, and that is somehow shifting now. And I think that is shifting partially because of the economic climate that we're currently in, and a lot of mandatory cost cutting needs to happen. So why not do that on this front as well? Um, but also because people starting to realize now that Microsoft Cloud is very expensive, and
Mhm.
that you can't assume that Microsoft will always grant you your preferred discount. And we are seeing that now. So we are now seeing that many organizations are having their negotiations getting stuck on not receiving the discount that they require for their business case. Well, we find that if you start to work on optimizing your environment, you might be better off than doing that negotiation in its entirety. Just buy what you need, and you might not even need a discount, or you might only need to negotiate a small discount.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we typically see is that clients who are applying our optimization method, they have the possibility to, without negotiation, spend more or less the same money as they were used to spend. And you don't need negotiation for that. And I think what Microsoft did very smart from their position is when the pandemic started, they were introducing the cloud at every client in every part of the world. even sometimes offering it for free, like they had the Teams promotion, offering it free because of the pandemic. Pushing clients at least to the M365 E3 platform or E5 even. We've seen cases in the pandemic where clients were just buying the M365 E5 suite out of some kind of panic attack, slightly implementing it and offering years, and now renewing it without even requiring the whole suite. So of course, when you have consumed, Microsoft in the past had more or less an informal rule that you would get the same discounts that you had in your previous agreement. But that time is gone. So when you are now renewing and you don't have a good business case, and a good business case for us means you are consuming the whole service that you are buying, the chances are that you will get a very low or even no discount at all. So clients should be aware of that if you are using M365 E5 and you are using all of the components, or you have bought E5 and you are intending to use all of the components in the coming years, you should be aware that you don't have any commercial negotiation position when you are renewing your enterprise agreement. So therefore, optimization is, as we see it, probably the most effective way to reduce your costs and just buy what you need. And then you don't need the negotiation. The optimization will probably be 80% of the negotiation result as it is.
So what would your advice be on this point to our listeners or all Microsoft customers worldwide?
Continuous optimization, because you have the possibility, of course, to start 3 months ahead of your enterprise agreement renewal, and we see 80% of the clients doing that, but that's too late. You should see this as a continuous process and start even earlier than a year, because by optimizing and doing this on a monthly basis, you are able to save costs and you will have continuous grip on your license position. So the negotiation with Microsoft and the renewal at its own will be less important, where the process of keeping in control and making sure you are buying the right stuff is the most important thing you can do from your perspective as a SAM manager within your company, or even from procurement perspective. Because Microsoft will not give you the high discounts anymore in the future. They will just simply do not. And as I see it now, maybe in 5 to 6 years, there will be no negotiation left, because Microsoft is developing very rapidly and their technology is developing insanely fast. So it could be that in the end, there is just optimization left for you to do. Maybe in 5 or 6 years, there's just a portal where you complete your transaction, have a new agreement in place, and that's it. There is no negotiation left. It wouldn't surprise me if we are there in 5 or 6 years, maybe even earlier.
I think we need to increase our focus on this as well in the market. So that's why we wanted to do this session as well, to talk about this, to explain the importance of it, and to really emphasize that you should start working on getting these right insights. We see many organizations still working with Excel sheets for this, which is fine. That's not an objection to do it, but make sure that you gather the right information. So if you are building this out for yourself, make sure that you understand, how does the M365 portal work? What information can I get from it? How can I get it from there? Do I need to create a Power BI dashboard? Do I buy tooling for this? For the Azure portal, same thing accounts. What are you going to do there? What are you currently not doing? Are you leveraging every Azure hybrid benefit? Are you not? Why not? Are you tagging your resources correctly by making sure that you know where to recharge the cost? Who even requested this subscription to start? I don't know. There's thousands of examples here where we think that the right focus is not yet there, and it should be a pressing matter for all organizations to save money on your cloud subscriptions and your Azure consumption and everything and anything, because that is the key to successfully setting up your next contract. Again, as we said earlier, you might not even need a discount if you do this correctly.
Yeah, fully agree on that topic. So yeah, therefore, I think short summary on this topic. Optimization is the new negotiation. Again, like Floor said, the most important phase is your preparation. It probably will be 80% of the end result you will gain, and therefore, yeah, we really think this one-liner, really covers it. Yeah, maybe moving on to the next topic of today. Next topic is increasing amount of complaints by our clients about the LSPs. Daily business for us. Because of a changing role also for the LSPs in the past years, you see that they have difficulties in maintaining their service level and providing clients an independent view on things. So let's zoom in on this topic. Floris, what have you seen lately? What are the latest developments? What we see in the LSP landscape? What are your findings?
Well, it differs a bit. So LSPs obviously are doing more than just enterprise agreements. So they also potentially have a CSP environment running for their customers. So there's different items that you see here. Firstly, CSP, they want to heavily steer customers here because their margins that they can set there is what drives their business. On the EA front, they realize there's next to no money to be made. We see that many Microsoft customers are being very cautious with their LSPs because they feel they don't have an independent view on the matter and probably are calculating towards their own wallet, which makes it very difficult, I think, for the LSPs at the moment to maintain their quality and level of service. And rightfully so, because if you get cut left, right, and center, it's going to get increasingly difficult to run your business, your organization that has done so well in the past. And that is what we notice. So we see a lot of quality leaving these organizations, going to other industries, other endeavors, joining independent firms like ours, for instance. So they're left with people that aren't as experienced, need to onboard quite quickly, and this just falls short in the level of service that they can grant the Microsoft customers and the level of service that they expect. That's what I've seen mainly happening. There's many examples that we can use. Maybe you want to shed some light on that.
Yeah, so what I've seen lately is that the LSPs are pushing clients to renew on time. Getting back to our title of this session, 3 reasons not to renew your enterprise agreement in time. Well, one of them is pleasing your LSP, because by renewing on time, the LSP gets, of course, his kickback fee from Microsoft, and that has been changed in the last fiscal year of Microsoft. So therefore, your LSP is pushing you to renew on time. And even what I've seen in 70% of the cases where the LSP falsely informed the client about the consequences of not renewing. And therefore, often clients are feeling pushed to renew on time, where we say, well, of course, when you can renew on time, why not? But if there is a reason not to renew in time, you shouldn't feel pushed or stressed by the LSP and Microsoft to renew in time. if you read your contract well. And let's assume a client has a normal enterprise agreement without special amendments in it. You have the possibility to renew late. And of course, Microsoft is now stating there is a lot of consequences when you are not renewing in time. But yeah, you should consider it well, of course, before you renew late. But it shouldn't always be that you have to renew in time. It's not like you have to accept everything they ask. And that's something that is personally, it's annoying me that clients are misinformed by LSPs with regards to this topic. Yeah, and it's not that it's one LSP, it's something we see generally speaking, especially with the larger LSPs, where clients are misinformed, not being provided an independent view on things. And that's really something that's concerning, because Microsoft on one end is reducing the margins and the kickbacks for the LSPs. We even had very recently a PSP partner in the Netherlands addressing this, which I think is a very good case. So they actually said, well, we cannot sell the price increases we have been confronted with to our clients. And we have difficulties keeping up our margin because Microsoft is reducing the kickback fees on that. So I think that's a very good case in this specific case of this partner. So very good they addressed this. I'm very curious to learn what the follow-up will be from Microsoft perspective, because it's a quite substantial partner as well. Difficult topic, but again, my recommendation to your clients, always involve an independent party to validate what Microsoft is stating and what your partner is stating, because there has been a lot of miscommunication going on from that part.
What do you think the future holds for LSPs?
So we don't have a glass bowl, but
Magic 8 ball.
Magic, yeah. But as I can just see, as a former Microsoft employee, knowing how Microsoft generally views this kind of stuff, I think the enterprise agreement model will probably change in a few years. We already have seen new agreements taking place, and I think this is just a preparation for what's coming. I think the role of the LSP will be deleted from the Microsoft program in time. I don't think they like to hear that, but I think they will make a general partner program and not come with the exclusive LSP status to certain partners. And also, when you look at Microsoft partners, generally speaking, from all the Microsoft partners, the partner that added no added value at all is the LSP. You know, we have seen CSP partners that are adding far more value to their clients than the LSP. The LSP is often stuck in a traditional model. You know, taking a look at all the big vendors they were they were taken over by large companies, and they've obtained a dominant position in the world when it comes to the LSP status. So there are not too many small LSPs left in the world. But in that model, in that dinosaur model that's been existing for 30 years, and 30 years is a long time in the IT world, they have not been able to develop very rapidly. Of course, they have a very nice sales pitch, but when it comes to delivering Microsoft expertise, there is really no added value at all. So I think the role will just disappear in time. Microsoft will probably have one partner model. Microsoft will always be a partner company in my view, but they will probably make one approach for all, which I think is more fair, and it will give the chance to partners that can add more value in the end. We've seen the CSP partners added more value in more projects than the average LSP. That's a bit of my prediction, not based upon any facts, by the way.
Very well.
Okay, enough about complaints, but it's really something that we've been seeing in every case. So we wanted to address that, and yeah, good to switch to the next topic. Let's go. Yeah, Floris, this is typically a topic. Yeah, from your perspective, you always have to do. You have to encounter a lot with this. So, what's your latest view on this?
Yeah, what I can't put a finger on it, but what I have been noticing lately is that in the entire sales process of Microsoft, it seems they make a lot of errors, and I don't know if it is on purpose or by accident. And I will give a few examples, not too many, but I hope that this resonates with some of the audience or people watching this. So if you look at the negotiation process with Microsoft, usually that starts around the time where you share your bill of material with Microsoft. And what typically tends to happen is that Microsoft will send out a proposal based on your requirements. However, sometimes they will add certain items that they think that you as the end customer might need. And what I've lately seen a lot is that they do this very fragmented. And by that, I mean, they will send you a proposal with 1 or 2, maybe 3 scenarios in there. But also, oh, wait, there's an Azure proposal, and they send that out through an email, and they say, oh, what, but you were also interested in our hardware. So here's the pricing for that. If you do any of this, we can make it more interesting. And they start doing it almost sounds like the nutty professor that something pops up and I'm like, oh, yeah, here, do this, do that. And you never get a concrete or a proposal anymore from Microsoft, it usually seems, which is very frustrating because if you want to negotiate, you should do it based on the same contents and not all kinds of fragmented things that they might think that are relevant to the discussion you're having. Another example is in rounding off the negotiation, paperwork will be distributed. You get a certain amount of files from Microsoft and a different type of files that the LSP should provide. It's just not coherent. And then if you tie it all together, you need to filter out any kind of errors. So you need to go through all the pricing. You figure out that the future pricing table is not correct. You need to go back to Microsoft. Then you feel that certain details in the contractual paperwork are incorrect. You need to go to the LSP. It just makes for a very frustrating process, if you ask me. And I don't know why this happens.
But what do you think? Is it on purpose or is it bureaucracy?
Well, I think bureaucracy definitely plays a role in this. So knowing how Microsoft operates on their back end, how the operation centers work, how teams work, that they need to request certain documentation from, that's just an issue that they have. So it doesn't make life easier, but I think it's just good form, which I always try to do while I was at Microsoft, to give a customer an all-up view. This is what we're discussing. This is what we're talking about. These are the points that you have put on the table. And let's peel it off and see if we can come to a resolution on it or not. It's fine. No is an answer, but then say no. What we figure as well is that if you make certain claims and we ask, for instance, to put it in writing, so that we can inform the top level management of our clients, and it doesn't come, then that opens up a whole new door. Why don't you want to put it in writing? Why can't we, if you say no to a certain item that we're negotiating, why can't you put that on paper for us? Because we need to inform people about this. And that's, I don't know. That's something I can't put my finger behind. I don't know what's happening in the back end of Microsoft.
Well, I think when in our time at Microsoft, when were introducing the Microsoft team to a client, we used to have 3 or 4 names on it. Nowadays, it's like a whole football team you have on on the PowerPoint slide. So I think that has something to do with it. They over-engineered the sales model. Everyone has an individual interest, and of course, they want to have the one Microsoft approach. But the fact is that you have to please 11 players in a team. They all want to have their own personal gain for it. So I think, therefore, it is the nutty professor approach. Everyone is just trying to get in their own, their own goal, and therefore acting like that. With regards to
how do you think that if this resonates with Microsoft customers that are watching this, how should they? What do you think they should do to mitigate this risk of falling into the trap of Microsoft?
Yeah. So what Microsoft typically does in their approach is they choose the top-down model. So you have other vendors who are choosing the bottom-up approach, where they are working with the IT specialists and moving their way up to sell their proposition. But Microsoft has another approach. So what typically helps is if the CIO of your company, from a client's perspective, is addressing this matter with the team, and you are communicating the level playing field between both organizations, then you typically see that Microsoft tends to respect that. And that would be my advice, just to have a connection from your CIO or your procurement leader to set the level playing field. Just let them know what the rules of engagement are, and not that everyone is talking with everyone and everyone is acting like the nutty professor. That usually results in chaos. And I think that chaos nowadays is a part of their negotiation game. So I think that's a strategy they have chosen to achieve their goals. So I would say it's a bit of both. I think it's a strategy, and I think it's actually bureaucracy. In addition to that, Floris, we think about 6 months ago, they have outsourced the department that's making all of the contracts and price sheets. And therefore, the commercial executive, in most cases, is not able to make the paperwork at its own. So therefore, a lot of errors are made. There is a lot of stress going on now because, we can feel what's coming. Microsoft will not achieve their internal goals. Of course, they will grow in their annual review in July, which is upcoming, but they will not hit the growth numbers they had made in the past years. We can already tell by what we see at our clients. So the internal pressure is high. They, of course, are reorganizing. 10,000 people have to leave the organization. So literally, a lot of people are struggling to still get their job. So that also has its reflection on the client. And Microsoft, of course, does not want that, but it's the reality. So,
but it's interesting though, because one of the cases that we've been working on, for instance, is, and we've seen it more, but in this case, it was exceptionally so. Microsoft is putting an increased amount of effort into renewing on time. But Microsoft still considers that a customer is able to turn around and sign paperwork that they provide 1 day in advance within 24 hours. While Microsoft takes at least 2 weeks if they want to
minimum
process that paperwork on their end. So that increased pressure to sign your contract on time versus them taking all the time in the world to process it and maybe even come back to you saying, oops, there was an error in the paperwork. We have to redo the signature. It's just so a duality to me that I can't rhyme together.
No.
So I think that the customer of Microsoft is usually the one that is that has a mandate to negotiate. We always say, make sure that you have that right to negotiate, and make Microsoft feel that you have that right to negotiate. But on the Microsoft front, that's typically not the case. You always get the feeling, well, probably they are offering me something, but it doesn't sound like they have that mandate yet, and they still need to get it. Their turnaround time is becoming increasingly higher and higher, yet they still want you as the Microsoft customer to renew on time. And that is something that just doesn't fit for me.
I think it has to do with two things. One is the internal predictability. In the past, a lot of agreements came in very late, and that they don't want that. I think what does not help is they probably have decided internally that they will say goodbye to the EA platform in time, move to another way of contracting and licensing, and therefore are still holding up the old structure as it is and accepting the collateral damage. So they probably are realizing, yes, we are pushing our clients, and yes, we are having old-fashioned technology that is causing us to take weeks in order to provide the agreed paperwork. But I think they will just try and accept the collateral damage that's coming from it until the new platform is there. Because with today's developments that Microsoft has announced with ChatGPT, where you have real-time access to everything, I cannot imagine why it would take years to develop a mature contractual platform for all Microsoft clients.
I think that ties into the next point, so maybe we should
Great. Yeah. Let's go to the next point.
And we already talked a bit about it as well. So the future of Microsoft contracting, what is around the corner? Like Eric said, now and in an earlier point that we were making as well, the enterprise agreement is potentially end of life, we feel. It might take some years, and probably there's going to be a huge transition period for this because there's a lot of missing pieces. But the idea is, as far as we can see, is still that Microsoft wants to bring everything together in the Microsoft Customer Agreement, which currently you might know as New Commerce Experience for CSP or MCA for Azure already. It was supposed to already have been launched for many cloud services, but as far as we know, still only Azure is available. But that motion for Microsoft customers to contract in an EA will slowly move into that program, potentially with committed offers, which you already have a little bit right now as CSP long-term subscriptions that you can have, but also with things like potentially having a discounted offer if you are a larger customer, what you have now in the EA, for instance. Those are things that we feel potentially will be added to CSP. You see it already happening also with SPLA, that many of the CSP hoster exceptions that they are currently creating are all to bring that program in line with SPLA. So I still feel that SPLA is going to be end of life at some point as well, when the two programs are identical and overlap in most items. And we think that happens then afterwards for the EA as well. We're talking probably still years. So especially with customers like Fortune 500 companies who have very bespoke, custom, tailor-made agreements, that they will be the last to move. Indirect customers potentially as well. Because like governmental frameworks and things like that, those usually aren't immediately possible in such a new program. But for the low-hanging fruit, meaning Microsoft customers with no special contractual clauses in their EA, this move might come sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Again, we
No,
don't have that magic 8-ball, but we feel that this is part of I think the next year, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah. I think they already have decided internally, because what we see is a heavy pushback on 5-year agreements without a very concrete reason why. So they are doing that probably because of the price increases that have been followed up in quite a pace in the past few 1.5 years, but probably also because something new is coming up, and they're really pushing back on that 5-year agreement structure. So I think it's sooner than later, especially for the level A, B, and C clients with little to no amendments in the structure that will be eligible for the new program. And to be honest, I'm quite surprised by the average response on the price increases. I have anticipated a lot of pushback on it from every client, but clients typically accept it. So they will probably accept a new contract model and licensing model as well. So I don't see that. Yeah,
but it's not a downside to have a new contractual model. The enterprise agreement is an old beast. Like there's a lot of issues with things that you aren't easily able to do right now. Multiple tenants, structured billings, you name it. Like the MCA billing model for Azure, it's not perfect, but it's way better than what you're used to if you have Azure in an EA. But is it worth it already to move there, as long as you don't have the same level of security that you might have in your EA with regards to price, at least. So if you don't have that motion where you can lock in your prices for multiple years, then is it worth it to move to such a model yet? Maybe. But you need to outweigh the risks and the benefits that you have with it. So I feel that when Microsoft is good and ready, and I hope to learn something soon, that this will be something that some customers might be happy with. Right now, it's a bit thin. As you buy an EA, or you go to CSP, or you do a mix of both. And I'm not that happy with opening up that entire world where everybody can be a Microsoft partner, because there's a lot of crap out there that's just there for their own margins. So if you get something in between there, something that is easy to set up, manage, and control, and you can do it directly with Microsoft, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just anticipate that the more traditional companies, for instance, we've seen them all, the companies that are still doing everything by a physical signature and, for instance, a fax, maybe even, that will be challenging to adapt to a new model. But I fully agree. A new model is more than welcome because of the practical stuff going on in a negotiation. It shouldn't take 3 weeks to complete the paperwork. So that's something they should adjust very fast. Okay, then the next topic.
Yeah, another one that I feel quite strongly about, new functionality outside of the suites. So if you follow us online or our newsletter, you will see me or read from me in those newsletters in regards to the changes that Microsoft is making month over month in the product terms. A lot of product launches over the past months, and a lot of products that don't generally get added to the Microsoft 365 suites, but exists outside of it, like with FIFA as an earlier example. SharePoint Syntex, but lately also with Priva, with the Intune suite, new Defender capabilities. These all get released outside of these product suites. And we can already see that those are components that typically customers have been waiting for. There's a lot of requests to us from our regular customers that they state to us, if I do a proof of concept now on this product, will Microsoft see that as a willingness to buy, and am I shooting myself in the foot? What should I do here? I think it's worrying that Microsoft is releasing these products this rapidly and bringing them to market outside of the M365 suites, because it might mean that they are already anticipating on something new happening. And we know there's buzz going on already in the market that Microsoft might be preparing for like an E7 suite or something, where currently they're still struggling, I think, selling E5 to many Microsoft customers, but already they're positioning themselves for an even bigger and better version.
Yeah,
it's not something that keeps me up at night, but it is something that worries me.
Yeah, I can imagine why it's worrying you. Yeah, and even if you approach it from even a negative point of view, not making a new suite with new functionality, but what if they decide to get things out of the E5 suite and put it in new additional products? That could also be something that they could choose for, because what we see now, depending, of course, where you are located in the world, the M365 E3 suite is now dominant. 80% of the clients are using that. E5 is moving up rapidly. So what will they do if the saturation level of M363 E5 is also at 80%? Then they will probably think of something to gain extra money out of that specific suite. And let's be honest, they are, with Azure, you have other options. With Dynamics, you have other options. But with the modern workplace proposition, there is not much alternative.
Well, if you look at security stack, there's obviously a lot of players out in the market, but the thing that Microsoft does really well here is positioning that one platform feel. Everything ties in together perfectly. It works together. So I understand that if you're very well along on your E5 security journey, for instance, or even E5 security and compliance, where we see compliance still lagging a bit for most organizations, that if you're well along with it, you're going to have an interest here. Things like that new Intune suite, where there's just functionality there that companies have been waiting for. You're going to want to review this. So what should you do in this case? So and I think, and we've been dealing with a couple of our long-term clients on these questions. I think you should just do that POC, but make sure that you have your alternatives in place, and make sure that before you start thinking about buying this, that you already think about how you're going to negotiate this with your end customers. And this ties into your preparation. You should always be aware of these products that are ongoing in your company. You might be a procurement specialist, but you should be included in these decisions from an early starting point. Make sure that you know that what they want in your organization, that you are one of the first people to know this. And then you can start strategizing and plotting on how to best be able to procure this at a later stage. This also ties into the next point that we want to discuss, because our ideal customer basically makes sure that the strategy, or the negotiation strategy even, to procure a product is already taken into account in the earlier discussions on, are we going to do a proof of concept? Sure, but what if the proof of concept works? What are we going to do next? then we probably want to buy it. But are we just going to pay full price for it because Microsoft might know that we really like the product? My advice is to make sure you do that homework in advance and have already your strategy in place.
Indeed. And even if you have made your decision for the technology from a procurement perspective, always include a second or a third party, because it's really worthwhile. We recently seen a case where Microsoft, I will not name specifics because that's too difficult, but for a security component, the client was offered an alternative, which they were not intent to buy, but they were offered it at a 98% discount just to go below Microsoft's pricing. And that's something you could really leverage and benefit in your negotiation. So if you have decided to sign up for new technology, just make sure you have the competitive landscape in place and that you are involving other vendors as well, just from a negotiation perspective. Because once bought and once consumed means that if your agreement expires and you are consuming the service, you will not get any discount anymore. So again, re-emphasizing that not only think in this year, but also think 3 or 5 years ahead with regards to buying those services.
Yeah.
Next topic. This one I like a lot. What's our ideal Microsoft customer? The do's and don'ts. Well, let's start, Floris.
Go for it.
Well, our best client is the one that listens to us. So we are always trying to not be a supplier. We wanted to sit next to the client and look at it from the perspective of the client to the vendor. And all of what we do is based upon your interest as a client. So our ideal Microsoft client is a client that is really, really, really focused on cost optimization, license optimization, and willing to play the negotiation game with Microsoft. I think that's our ideal client. And to be very transparent, we have clients that fully are breathing and adapting to our proposition, and of course getting good results. And we have clients that are doing their own. So we sometimes give good advice and it gets ignored. But yeah, so ideally speaking, that's the client that's the most successful, the one that's focused on cost and license optimization. So specific brands also, when you are looking, for instance, in retail, clients are very focused on costs, and there we are often doing great stuff because they are listening well to our advice. Typically speaking, clients that are using the cloud and are adapting the cloud and are further developing the cloud are often benefiting from our services. What's your view on this, Floris?
So the one thing I want to highlight here is the one of the best ideal Microsoft customer that you can be is one that negotiates heavily while still maintaining a relationship. So many Microsoft customers believe that if you negotiate too harshly with Microsoft, that might hamper your relationship. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We've seen excellent negotiations being done with Microsoft, where the day after the contract was signed, everything was smooth and sweet as butter. there wasn't a problem. So you can't ruin anything by negotiating hard, and you should do that. So why won't you fight for what you believe you need? That's the first point I want to make. And we've seen a couple of customers, Microsoft customers, our clients, do this to perfection. Even one that was telling me about the last time they did it and how they did it, and their result was magnificent. We weren't even involved. It's still one of my favorite stories. They just stuck with what they believed was right for their organization, and they kept that stick in the ground. And after a while, Microsoft was like, sure, okay, now that we're running out of time, just tell me what you need and I'm going to give it to you. That's the stuff you want. And it shouldn't be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't, because then they might get angry and they might terminate our services. They won't do it. We literally heard the CIO say this, and they won't. But yeah, getting through to them, it's more difficult. The second thing I want to highlight is, again, preparation. We always, when we do a session, we always come back to it. Like we started with it, optimization is the new negotiation. If you do that preparation incorrectly or not thorough enough, you don't know what you're going to negotiate. You're going to dance to the tune of Microsoft instead of dictating the tune that Microsoft needs to play to you. So make that preparation a key step in your process to arriving at the right bill of material that you want to give to Microsoft. Leave no stone unturned and write everything down that you think might be important. How small it is, just write it down. Tell it to Microsoft. See how they respond. Might be something so tiny for you, but they feel that if they get that off the table, that they've done you a service. And in return, you can ask for something back. Okay, I'm willing to let that go, but you need to help me out on that other front. So in that preparation, nothing is too small.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because for me, this is just my personal opinion, it's very frustrating when the relationship with Microsoft is an argument to not continue any further. So very funny that you are stating that, because that happens in 50% of the cases. And we see that the clients who typically negotiate, and of course act with respect, but be very consistent in the message they send to Microsoft, in the end get better results. So couldn't agree more on that. And also, if you are viewing this and you are not using our services and you are doing your negotiation on your own, keep persisting in your message. And relationship is something that is nowadays very important, because Microsoft is one of the biggest software vendor in the world. But also understand that Microsoft is used to dealing with this, and relationship is often very, very important for both parties. But know that, for instance, that the commercial executive that you are dealing with is trained to handle with conflict, trained to negotiate under pressure, and is loving this until every minute of the last seconds of June. So of course, respect the relationship.
Do the same. Enjoy it.
Do the same. Enjoy it. It's just the right. And when it's 1st of July, Microsoft team goes to their annual summits. They are energizing again, and they are back after the summer. And then everyone is forgotten the situation, and there is no hard feelings anymore. Negotiate, and keep persisting, and enjoy it, because it's fun.
Maybe that ties into the next point as well.
Yeah, let's go to the next point. Click. The importance of a clear negotiation strategy in a difficult environment. Well, you start off this time.
Sure. I think we already talked a lot about this as well, in between the lines, maybe. But that maybe we started out with it. So we think that the negotiation still plays a key role in getting to the desired budget constraints that you might have as your organization. But it becoming less so doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep a clear negotiation strategy going. What we mean by this is that we too often still feel or see within our clients that there is a lot of uncertainty. Who does what? Where does Microsoft have a relationship? Who do they talk to? We need to bring that all together. So first thing that we always do in setting a negotiation strategy is, who's the team? Who's going to negotiate? Don't make it too big. Don't make it too small. Make sure that the team that is negotiating feels like they can negotiate. So there shouldn't be higher level management out there that, when called upon by Microsoft, which they will take over. That can't happen. The mandate needs to be with the team. Setting that team up is one of the most crucial aspects of your negotiation strategy, and will help you in the end, because if they get the feeling that you are the one that Microsoft should negotiate with, that they shouldn't try and get their point across somewhere else, and that's so powerful. Secondly, what are you going to negotiate? We see that a lot of loose ends are often kept open, and you can't negotiate anything if you don't know where you want to be in the end. So that preparation, again, that optimization, even, that is key. So what are you going to bring to the table? What do you want to give? What do you want to get? What can you let go? What do you want to keep hammering your point across about towards Microsoft? Those things you want to set up immediately in advance. Before even talking to Microsoft, you want to have that clear.
Yeah. Good points. Nothing much to add. It's really, it's very clear. And it's always also, I think, repeating what we already have been stating. So go to the next item.
Well, is Microsoft bringing back its audit game, Eric?
Yes and no. Depending on where you live and you are negotiating. So in Western Europe, not much. They are very active when it comes to SPLA auditing. So there we see a high increase of engagements coming in, but not directly with clients. Rumor has it that they will continue to increase more audits in the next fiscal year. In Western Europe, they have decided to, stop with the audit as it was known, but it wouldn't surprise me if they will start with it again. They are probably doing this because of revenue gains. They need to increase in their in the revenue they should make as a team, the sales team. So I expect they will bring the audit game back on the table. In the US, they are active. In Asia Pacific, they are active. I will think it will be another thing we have to deal with in the next fiscal year. And once we see the first cases coming in, we of course will let our audience know so they can anticipate on this in the Western Europe region. So I expect it to be coming back. And you?
I wouldn't put it past them. Like we hear in many regions that Microsoft is not doing so well, so they need to figure out where they can get their revenue stream from. Economic climate isn't that great. Price increases seem to work because what else are you going to do? You still need to buy your stuff. So and that will probably help Microsoft, even though they state to mainly do it because of currency differences, or those currency differences might not be that big as Microsoft is making it out to be, but it remains to be seen. So I think it might happen. When it does happen, I don't think you should be too worried. Make sure you have the right people around you to help you out in these situations. Microsoft is not and will still not be an Oracle or an IBM or some organization that will put a multi-million-dollar claim on your table. It's just not the case. That's not how they do it. Just do the same thing that you've always done. Do your homework.
Yep. Okay. And shameless plug, if you are dealing with an audit, reach out to us because we can help and get the most out of a bad situation. Then we go to item 9.
So one of the biggest changes over the past year obviously was the announcement in October where Microsoft stated that due to certain regulatory complaints in mainly the EU, I think, that the hosting game, so to say, wasn't as beneficial or the way it should be as Microsoft had set it up now. So they changed a lot of things around. Very heavy changes on licensing front. We did do some material around this on the changes that were being made, for instance, with the option for Windows Server to do virtual machine licensing, to be able to use your Windows Server licenses now on your outsourced premises, and even in a shared environment, etc., etc. And that has had a change in how we deal with our customers, because now what we've been able to do is reflect on our customers' data centers and even the use of hosters and see if there's cost benefits there. And there usually are. So many of our clients that we've helped when we rechecked it with the new licensing rules, we found that at least for certain clusters in their own data centers, or even by bringing it to their hosters where they used to have an SPLA contract with, that it's cheaper for them to license the VMs directly instead of the bare metal, the physical layer. It might not be that cheap for your entire organization, but at least for part of it. So the reason that we wanted to talk about this is that you should check your internal organization's data center, or if you're using an SPLA partner, check with your SPLA partner if you can bring in your own licenses, because potentially it might save you a lot of money. We can't put percentages on it per se right now, but for all our customers, there was a benefit to it. When we have these numbers, we'll be sure to share it. If it's 10, 20%, I don't know right now, but it is quite, it's quite something. And for heavy duty Microsoft customers who still run a very large data center, and this definitely can chalk up to a large amount of money.
Yeah. And to add in, from a negotiation perspective, if the SPLA revenue is consumed with the partner and you are deciding to license it on your own premises, or in your own contract at least, then you probably have your account team that's also interested in having that revenue in their internal bucket. So it could be very interesting also for Microsoft internally to have a switch from SPLA revenue to having the revenue in your EA or whatever. So also from that perspective, it could be very beneficial to have that conversation with Microsoft and ask their opinion on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was the last topic, but we have one generic topic left, which is the market trends. What do we see and what do we do? And of course, like the title said, 3 reasons not to renew your enterprise in time. Well, one has been covered already. So one reason not to renew is negotiation, because you are not ready yet. You are still optimizing. You are still determining your bill of material and perhaps facing internal issues why you should not be pushed by the deadline. It's not like if the deadline ends that you don't have any access to services anymore. There are enough solutions to handle that. We hear from Microsoft, well, your services will not run out. Of course, they will not put it on email, but they will say it to you and your CIO. Or they state, well, you cannot add any users anymore in your enterprise agreement portal, which is true, but there are other ways to add users to your tenants. So yeah, again, that's one of the reasons not to renew in time, because you don't want to renew in time. You have the right to negotiate late if you want to. If you have the good reasons for it. And sometimes there is no need to, but if there is need to, and we are dealing with cases now where clients are renewing late because they are not ready for it internally, then Microsoft should respect that, we feel. So that's one reason to not renew in time. The other is, we already mentioned that the LSP, they are being paid heavily by Microsoft on renewing on time. So it even might come at a point where if a client does not renew in time, the LSP does not get any margin or rebate from Microsoft. From my perspective, this should not be a reason to renew. It's crazy. Why should you renew on time because of the LSP wants to? So.
And should you renew on time because Microsoft is pressuring you?
Never.
With reduced discounts, or
depending on the discounts. You know, if the discount is fair and within the market standard and within your standard, most important, then why not accept it? But if you have the feeling that the discount is not within the market standard, or you are paying much more than the previous agreement without having any changes, which we see more and more, then why not push? And especially if you are renewing this time of year, where Microsoft fiscal year end is, I would definitely wait. So, we see, generally speaking, all clients renewing in time. But you really can, wait. From our perspective, Microsoft does not appreciate that we are sharing this message. And of course, there are consequences which you should review carefully. But 99 out of 100 cases, you can wait with your enterprise agreement renewal. So that are the 3 reasons not to renew your enterprise agreement. And it's really speaking,
which basically boils down to manage it on your own terms.
Yeah, manage it on your own terms.
Don't get pressured by outside factors.
No. And that's really the most important. Just handle from your own case and strength. Last year, we done a case where the client was, I really have a bad feeling about this. We are licensing so much users, and I don't have an idea how much users we have. So I really want you to help me determine what our license position is. And yes, we are out of our contract, and we need to renew. But I first want to have that assessment before I'm renewing it. And from my perspective, this makes sense. Why should you renew something where you not know where you're signing up for? And so like Floor said, don't be pressurized. Take your time. And in the end, in all of the cases we've done, which is a lot, optimization effect has more effect than negotiation. So by optimizing and buying at list price, it will probably be more cost effective than just buying what Microsoft asks you to buy. So if you are cost driven, and if you are driven by having your IT assets under control, then just wait.
I realize now that we've gone a little bit over time.
Yeah, we've gone a little bit over time, so sorry for our followers on that. So I guess no more time left for market trends, but we will probably handle that in another session that's coming up.
If there's any questions that we've not seen yet or discussed or already answered, we'll take some time to answer them in the chat if you will or already have posted them. Sorry about that. We usually want to handle Q&A. I see now that we've gone, well, not a little bit, probably massively over time, so maybe everybody already logged off. But who's still here, we want to thank you for attending this live. If you're watching this on demand on YouTube or on LinkedIn, also thanks for watching. If you have any pressing questions that you have for us and you have not asked them yet, just drop us a note. You know where to find us. It's not that hard. We're always very quick to answer. So look forward to hearing from you. And thanks again, I guess.
Thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.